Hi, this is Darrell Stilwell, and in this video I want to tell the story of the first REMAX hot air balloon. In Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1978, I was the regional director for REMAX for the states of New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. My team and I put together the first REMAX hot air balloon and named it REMAX 100 above the crowd. The 100 stood for the 100% commission that REMAX was offering in all of our brokerage offices back then. So, let's get started.
Today we are going to be talking about the first REMAX balloon. I will be quoting from an article out of the North American Real Estate Magazine, Volume 3, 1979, entitled REMAX in Albuquerque, Above the Crowd, written by Linda Love, National Director of Advertising, of REMAX of America Incorporated. Well, what can I say about REMAX 100? For starters, it wins my nomination for the Hot Air Award hands down. There's one big reason. REMAX 100, the giant red, white, and blue heart balloon owned by Darrell Stilwell, Regional Director for REMAX of New Mexico. What else can I say about REMAX in Albuquerque? I can say that I've never met such an incredibly warm, friendly, and fun group of people in my life. And I might add that these people are responsible for one of the most fun weekends I've ever experienced. It all began when I was invited to attend the International Hot Air Balloon Fiesta in Albuquerque. I jumped at the chance. At the time the REMAX balloon was only 1 week old and still very much a secret. I flew to Albuquerque, and was met by Bill Eccles, Marketing Director for REMAX of New Mexico. From the airport we drove to the Pelican restaurant where we joined 3 of the REMAX agents for dinner, Byron Jones, Jen Burnell, and Roy Penny. Jen told of a listing appointment she had been on where the prospective seller asked her to wait, while she went next door to bring a neighbor over. Apparently the prospective seller had mentioned that a REMAX agent was coming over, and the neighbor wanted to meet the lady with the balloon. At this point REMAX 100 had been in a flight over Albuquerque, only on limited occasions. Byron told of being in the checkout line at the grocery that week, when the checker notices REMAX lapel pin, and starts asking questions about the balloon. Even the grocery clerk knew the name REMAX. Here were 3 people, whom I had never met, and the excitement in their stories was simply overwhelming. I couldn't wait to find out if it really was all that exciting a sport. We called it an early evening, as the REMAX ground crew was to assemble at 4:30 that next morning to put the balloon up. You've got to be kidding. I never knew what 4:30 a.m. looked like. I was about to find out that it's cold and very dark. I imagined that there would be 3 or 4 of us, crazy enough to meet in a parking lot, at that hour. Headlights appeared out of the darkness, one after another. These were REMAX people, their spouses and friends, had all come to launch the balloon. As we only had 2 vehicle passes for the parking area we piled bodies into a Scout and a pickup, and away we drove to the launch site. George Hartnett, our pilot, who also doubles as the district representative for Kodak, was already there, mumbling something about the cold, and the ungodly hour. It was then that I discovered the method behind the madness of this early lunch hour. The REMAX crew had figured out a way to spread the REMAX word via the balloon. With floodlights shining inside the balloon and the balloon tethered to the ground, hovering about 150 feet in the air, you can read REMAX 100 for miles. The letters on the balloon are 8 feet high, which is tough to miss day or night. But when it's pitch dark out and you've got a giant hot air balloon hanging over the city, and lit up like a Christmas tree, you've got to be blind to miss that one. Being a novice in balloon launching, I stood out of the way, while the crew put the balloon up. The process takes some 15 minutes to inflate, but I believe that 7.5 minutes is the REMAX record. What a magnificent sight. Here it was, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was freezing out and there were over 20 REMAX people pitching in to launch. Later that morning, nearly 300 other hot air balloons would fill the field, which we now had to ourselves. There was no one around but an excited happy group of REMAX associates, having the time of their life. They even have designed their own red, white and blue jackets with REMAX patches with a hot air balloon and the words REMAX Realtors, above the crowd. As the fan continued to pump air into the ever-expanding balloon, George could faintly be heard shouting orders over the roar of the generator, pumping electricity to the fan and lights. I was kicking myself for not having a tripod and my camera set up to record this event, for it was one of those exciting moments in life, that even as you're living it, you know this is the moment you recall 100 times in the future, for the sheer pleasantry of recollection. The balloon filled with air, heated by the propane burner, and suddenly eased its way to an upright position. Out of the surrounding darkness erupted a round of applause. There's a total fascination in watching these giants inflate, and spectators had gathered around to watch the first balloon come to life, REMAX 100. Once inflated, George tethered the balloon above the ever-growing crowd. He was giving joy rides in the cold darkness of the early morning hours. As the sun burned through the morning haze, balloonists poured in like ants at a picnic, pulling their gondolas in care. REMAX 100 was there to greet them all that Saturday morning, glowing like a Christmas tree in the black sky. Within an hour, most of the balloonists had arrived and were beginning to inflate their balloons, for the mass ascension, where nearly 300 balloons in some organized manner, lift off within minutes of each other. I never asked Darrell how they managed to arrange this, but REMAX 100 had one of the very best starting positions in the fiesta. We must have been one of the first 10 balloons to lift off, while thousands of spectators stood cheering and waving to those in flight. Within minutes after takeoff, hundreds of brightly colored balloons glided through the air, the Sandia Peak to one side and the sprawling city of Albuquerque to the other. It was a magnificent sight, but of the handful of commercially sponsored balloons, REMAX 100 was the only truly legible balloon, from any distance on the ground. Some balloons had banners tied to their sides with their company name on the banner, while the others had small letters on the balloon. But REMAX 100, with her 8-foot red and blue letters, was truly a sight to behold, against a brilliant blue Albuquerque sky. What I witnessed back on the ground was an incredible sense of camaraderie among the REMAX people. They all knew that only one person can be liftoff with a pilot, and they had invited Corky Kyle from the Albuquerque Board of Realtors to be the guest that morning. Most of the REMAX people had been diligently working with the balloon, and yet never had the opportunity to ride in her. Yet, each and every one of them unselfishly gave of their time and energy, not to mention sleep, to assure that the launch went smoothly. Once in the air, the ground crew piled into the truck and the Scout and chased after REMAX 100, ready to hold her down and deflate her once she touched down again. Sunday was the final day of the week-long fiesta and time for one final mass ascension. REMAX 100 was scheduled to take part in a wedding prior to the big liftoff. It was 7 a.m., the balloon arrived on the large field, just in the nick of time, and the crew frantically went to work to inflate her for the wedding. As soon as she was ready for liftoff, the two witnesses jumped into REMAX 100. The bride, groom, and minister rode in the Colorado balloon, and the photographer went up in a third balloon to record this event. All three balloons were tethered about 50 feet off the ground. The wedding was being broadcast over the local radio station, and television cameras were taping this hoopla. I don't know how Darrell and REMAX managed to get involved, but it was absolutely astounding to witness thousands of Albuquerque homeowners standing around cheering at REMAX 100. After the wedding, George deposited the witnesses and I climbed into the gondola, as the guest of REMAX of New Mexico. It is difficult to describe the sensations involved in the morning adventure. The sun had just peeked up over the horizon and it was one of those typical Albuquerque cloudless, ice blue skies. Being one of the first balloons to ascend, we naturally were receiving a lot of the attention from the thousands of people below. As we lifted off, there's absolutely no sensation of movement, but suddenly you are watching a sea of brightly colored parkas waving and cheering, as we continued to climb. The noise of the crowd began to fade as we ascended to perhaps 1,500 feet and floated to no more than a mile towards Albuquerque. Descending a hot air balloon is exciting as the liftoff, for you suddenly find yourself gliding just above the treetops, waving at people who are dumbfoundedly staring at you as you float over their yards. Dogs bark and chase, while kids wave and scream. And it felt like a scene from Around the World in 80 Days, as I waved and yelled back. We landed with 3 seamy hard bumps and drags across a dirt field, only to wait for the ground crew who had a flat tire. When they finally arrived, champagne bottles popped, and kids ran up with Polaroid pictures of REMAX 100, asking for autographs from the pilot. A hot air balloon draws a lot of attention, even Albuquerque, hot air balloon capital of the world. And people began to appear from out of the fields. We watched other balloonists in their descent. One poor balloonist missed a telephone pole by inches, while others stayed afloat and drifted towards downtown. I even watch one balloon skim along the tops of trees, desperately trying to gain altitude. As for us, REMAX 100 was tethered and one by one, George took the hard-working REMAX folks up for a ride. The next hour was spent making sure that no one missed a ride. Everyone was still pitching in, making sure the balloon did not tip too far or land too hard, unless Wade, ground crew manager, was in the gondola. I can still see that entire group of incredible people all pulling together to ensure the success of the day, and taking care of their balloon. REMAX Realtors is now a familiar name to the people in Albuquerque. In just a few short weeks they have accomplished the notoriety that older, more established companies have taken years to create. The idea was so simple. Here they are, sitting in the hot air balloon capital of the world. What could be more natural than to have their own hot air balloon? Its visibility has created the talk of the town in the realtor community. And I'll take bets that next year's fiesta, you'll be seeing a few other real estate balloons. More important than anything else, REMAX 100 has brought out the best in a group of already outstanding individuals. I have set up here in Denver, writing articles about the camaraderie that develops within a REMAX office when you assemble an office of highly experienced and professional agents. It's one thing to hear the stories, over the phone, or via the mail, or even face to face, but when you actually are out there watching this phenomenon in action, it is truly inspirational and certainly is a testimonial to the system itself. I can't help but believe that any of the Albuquerque group would manage to enjoy life regardless of who they were with, or what they're doing. But I must admit that it sure makes me proud to know they're on our side. Many thanks to all the wonderful REMAX people in Albuquerque, and especially to Bill Eccles and Darrell Stilwell for their generous invitation to be their guest. It was an experience I shall never forget.